boxing. Man, shut the door, sit down, clean your ears, and stop listening to what your mama needs you to be doing right now. You're going to listen to the Boxing Podcast. Man, okay. Hit it. Sheesh. Okay, no, that's so stupid. Okay, I don't know where the energy's at, but we're live. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's talk about what happened this weekend. What happened yesterday was freaking insane. UFC 261, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Crazy outcome. Jorge Masvidal knocked out in the second round by straight right hand. Straight right hand by Kamaru Usman. You know, everyone knows that follows this page knows that I had Jorge Masvidal. I was rooting for Jorge Masvidal. My heart was with Masvidal, or how he likes to call it, Masvidal. And my brain was with Kamaru Usman. As much as you hate to do it, as much as you dislike the idea and the thoughts that enter your head when you're rooting for your fighter. When you're rooting for your fighter, you kind of know he's going to lose. And I was rooting for Jorge, and I thought he had a really good chance at beating Kamaru Usman. But when he lost, I was surprised that he got knocked out. I thought he would lose, but I didn't think Jorge would get knocked out. I thought in my heart, my heart was with Jorge, but my brain was telling me, Kamaru Usman's going to win, And I'll never say that. I'll never say that at first, but, because I want to root for my fighter. I want to be there for him. I want to pipe him up. But I guess even though I knew that Kamaru was going to win, I didn't know he was going to win by knockout, and that's what surprised me because I didn't see that coming at all. And when it happened, I was sitting on my couch watching it on my laptop with my girlfriend, and the first round had gone by. In the first round, Jorge Masvidal knew what he was doing in there. The second time around was Kamaru Usman. The takedown defense was amazing. Yes, they did go to the ground, but Jorge Masvidal was able to get back up right away. And that's, when you compare that to the past fights, it was nothing like that. I mean, when Jorge and Usman were on the ground, Jorge was hitting him. He was holding him down. He was shooting his little shots in there. Every now and then, Usman tried to throw like a big looping, overhands, and he wasn't landing those. But Jorge knew what he was doing that time. Like he was turning around on his back so he could get his elbow on the side of Kamaru's head, and he was just pushing that through. He was getting in his little punches when he could, holding his head down. He made sure to hold that head in so that Kamaru couldn't see where he was aiming when he was trying to hit Jorge, which was smart on Jorge's part. But I just know, and you can tell by the first round, that Jorge really had an amazing game plan going in. He had practiced everything that he had to fight against Kamaru Usman. So in the second round, if you see right before he gets knocked out, Jorge had this ambiance of confidence. He was so relaxed. His hands were down. He wasn't blocking his head. He was very flat-footed, very come forward. I guess he wasn't flat-footed for the full part. But he was just standing in front of Kamaru without any fear. He wasn't moving his head out of the trajectory of any punches that could be coming in, which was probably what got him caught at the end of the day. And it is what got him caught. If you look at the replay in slow-mo, you'll see that Kamaru grabs Jorge's hand and pushes it down, and then puts his straight right in. I'm doing my straight left because I'm a southpaw, but for the most part, geez, man, Kamaru Usman, a beast. I didn't want him to win, guys. I really didn't. I don't know why. I just think Jorge Masvidal is such a cool guy. He's such he seems like he should be with like Tony Montana, the fucking Sopranos. He's Puerto Rican, but then at the same time I look at him as like an Italian dude. Like he just looks like very mobster. He's just so I don't know. I love the energy that Masvidal brings, and I'm gonna be honest. I think that if Jorge Masvidal would have beat Usman, I think that would have been much better for the UFC, marketing wise, and because Masvidal is more of a marketable fighter, just because of the confidence that he carries, the ambiance of a flashy, pretty boy with that's game bred, that's always ready to fight, and he's just so gangster like, and he can relate to people who come from street fighting, and that's what a lot of UFC fans are. They're people that used to street fight in their hometowns, or they've transitioned from being street fighters into MMA fighters at a gym, in a local gym, and so I I was satisfied. I think UFC 261 was insanely great. I mean, congrats to Kamaru Usman and congrats to Thug Rose. And we're back. I had to take a little break to let my girlfriend into the apartment, and I stuffed my face with a lot of food. But what I wanted to talk about next was the co-main event of Rose Namajunas, the Thug, and how she knocked Mrs. Zhang out in their fight in the women's strawweight division this past weekend. The knockout was a head kick, and it happened in round 1 at 1 minute and 18 seconds. And holy shit, do I sound like a fucking robot? And that's exactly what I promised you guys, is not to sound like a robot. This is a fight that everyone thought Rose was going to lose, but she came through and knocked the girl out. She used a ton of footwork. She did a lot of in and out movement. And, at first, I thought it was going to go south for her because Zhang was using a ton of calf kicks. And I thought, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, no, I do know why. I'm done saying I don't know why. I know why. The calf kick has plagued the UFC, okay? Usually, back before the calf kick became popularized, we didn't have to worry about calf kicks. Nobody was throwing them. But some people have caught on and have realized that it is a very lethal weapon to use in a fight. And when they have used it, it has gone very south for other fighters. And that's what Zhang was using at the start of the fight. She saw that Rose was using a ton of footwork. And how are we going to stop footwork? Calf kicks. And so when those started landing and Rose started slowing down, I really thought it was game. But that head kick was gold. It looked like Rose was gonna do kick to the legs of Zhang, but she turned that into a head kick, and that's what caught Zhang off guard, and got knocked out. So yeah, man, she is looking like a thug in there for real. I mean, I know she cries after every single fight that she wins. She goes into tears. She even made Mr. Joe Rogan cry this fight. But she's really starting to live up to her name. She proclaims that she's the best strawweight in the UFC women's division, and I'm happy for her. She did really good. I thought she was gonna lose for sure. Zhang can throw a punch like a man, and I say that in the kindest way possible. I don't want to throw off any of the feminists in the crowd, but no, good fight, very good fight. It was definitely something special. And there was another thing I wanted to say. No, the stoppage was good. I mean, there's people. There were, Zhang kind of did not agree with the stoppage, but I mean, she was out of it. She didn't even know what was going on. Yeah, so And I also saw that Lil Wayne actually wants to make a song after Rose. That's funny that that Lil Wayne, well, in the first place, that Lil Wayne's watching UFC fights, and second, that he knows about Rose that well, that he thinks that she deserves her own song. Um, but yeah. Another thing that I'm sure most of you are aware of is Ryan Garcia has pulled out of his fight in July due to what he calls health issues. Many people thinking not just health issues, I don't think anyone's thinking in terms of COVID or, something's wrong with him physically, but more so mental. We all know that Ryan Garcia has dealt with anxiety, and he's a huge advocate for helping people get over anxiety. And that's what the world seems to be making it out to be. And I would agree. And I think that it's really cool that the boxing community, such as Teofimo Lopez and Tevin Farmer, are coming out and supporting Ryan. And likely, thank the Lord, everyone has followed suit as well. I know if you do go into the comment sections, you will find your haters. You will find people calling him out, but you're going to get that everywhere. But for the most part, the boxing community is completely behind Ryan Garcia and his decision to pull out of the fight. It's sort of sad because I know he says he wants to retire by the age of 26, and the kid's only 22 years old right now. So if he truly wants to retire and live out a legendary boxing career, he needs to get back in there again soon. He needs to start fighting 3 to 4 times a year, because you can't make a legendary boxing career out of fighting once or twice a year. The kid blew up, but as we all know, last year was a dry year for boxing because of COVID-19. And then here we are sitting in April, and he has pulled out of his fight in July against Javier Fortuna. So, I don't know. I wish him the best. I don't care if he stays out for as long as he wants to stay out. I'm just saying, I know the kid has goals. I know he's a very ambitious kid, so it'd be nice to see him back in there. And I think he's probably the best thing we got going for our sport right now. So yeah, all the best wishes to Ryan Garcia. I hope he recovers. I hope he's good. Don't really know what it is. I'd be interested to know exactly what it is, because I'm a nosy person. But I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. Let's see what else. Let's explore my boxing newsfeed on Instagram. Okay, we're 2 weeks out from Canelo versus Saunders, Saturday, May 8th, and we're only 1 week out from Andy Ruiz and his fight on May 1st, I believe it is. Both really good fights. I'm actually going over to a friend's house to watch Canelo versus Saunders. Gonna cook some carne asada, maybe some tacos, maybe some chicken on his new Traeger grill. It's gonna be a good one. I really, I've heard that Eddie. Recently, I saw that Saunders tweeted out how Eddie Hearns is already planning Canelo versus Caleb Plant, and that sort of disappointed Saunders, because Eddie Hearns was Billy Joe Saunders' promoter first, and they're both from the United Kingdom. So one would think, Billy Joe Saunders would think that Eddie Hearns would back him up and not look past Billy Joe Saunders and think that Canelo's gonna beat his ass, and that's exactly what Eddie Hearns is doing by scheduling. The fight was Caleb Plant, but it makes sense, because when you got a big fighter, if Eddie Hearns is now promoting a fighter that is Canelo Alvarez, and he is at the top of the food chain, you better have something ready for him as soon as he wins or loses, And if Eddie Hearns has Canelo's best interests in mind, then he is believing in Canelo, the face of boxing, that he's going to walk through Billy Joe Saunders and walk into the next fight that everyone wants to see. And not only that, us knowing Canelo, we know Canelo wants legacy. We know Canelo wants to stop wasting his time fighting taxi drivers and subway drivers, and he wants to fight real opposition, the people that we want to see him fight. So Canelo's made that very clear to Eddie Hearns, and Eddie Hearns is just doing what he has to do. He is putting his money where he believes is true, where he thinks he sees the boxing world going, and that's Canelo Alvarez. So if he's getting Caleb Plant ready next in line after Billy Joe Saunders, I mean, win or lose, really, we want to see that fight. We want to see Canelo fight Billy Joe Sanders. Not Billy Joe Saunders. We want to see him fight Caleb Plant, win or lose against Billy Joe Saunders. So either way, it works out, and it keeps Canelo busy, and it keeps the sport of boxing going. So you can't hate on Eddie Hearns, although I do see where Billy Joe Saunders is coming from. But that's just the name of the game, and that's making money and building your legacy. So that's just how it got to go. I mean, if we've all seen Saunders, I mean, like the current state of his boxing career and how he looks, like he's just not the most marketable boxer, especially because he runs into so many problems with the law. He makes a lot of stupid jokes and posts on Instagram that just make him look like an idiot boxer with no marketability. So I could see why Eddie Hearns would take the time to plan Canelo's next fight. For being honest, Canelo's the A side. Canelo is the cash cow of Eddie Hearn now. So that's where you got to focus. You got to focus on your cash cow. Let's see what else we got going on this. So yeah, Ruiz versus Adiola. God damn, I'm very excited to see that fight. Ruiz, the last time we saw him in there, he was, he's been saying in a lot of his video footage leading up to this fight that in his past fight, he was very depressed. He was very lost. He was very unmotivated. And obviously we could see it because he was fatter than he was in the first fight against Anthony Joshua. So, and to see him surrounded by a new team in Canelo Alvarez, Oscar Valdez, Ryan Garcia, the Cuban fighter, heavyweight, Eddie Reynoso, and all the guys in his camp, they're very motivating people. They're people with a lot of ambition. And I think this has served Andy very well. So I'm very excited to see this fight. I'm just almost a little worried because Andy Ruiz's first trainer, Manny Robles, is a completely different trainer than Eddie Reynoso is. Where I saw the strengths in Andy Ruiz, was he was fast, he was a combination puncher, he was a bobbing and weaver, and when he was throwing his combinations, they were focused on speed. Now that I see him with Eddie Reynoso, I see them focusing on a lot of hip movement, moving side to side, slipping under, and then throwing power shots. There is a difference in both of these styles. When you are fighting for speed and when you are fighting with power, the way you fight and throw your punches affect obviously your offense and then also your defense. And so I'm a little worried to see where Andy Ruiz's new fighting style falls, because I've seen fighters go with trainers that are completely against the way that they fought in the past, and I've seen it tarnish them in the end. And it's, I just feel like Andy's not going to be as fast. I feel like he's going to be taking too much time with his punches and trying to throw really hard punches. And that's the thing. Him as a heavyweight, his advantage was throwing really fast punches and combinations, because most heavyweights can't do that. Most heavyweights are just bombarded with muscles on their arms, and they just can't throw as fast, and they aren't as consistent, and they don't have a lot of punch output. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see where that goes. But nonetheless, I can't see him not having better stamina and being more conditioned. But I just think that the way you train can affect a lot of. Well, obviously, it's going to affect the way you fight, but just a whole new training environment will affect the way you fight. And so, yeah. Let's see what else we got going on here. May 1st. Yes, I've also heard Manny Pacquiao is again toying around with the Manny Pacquiao sweepstakes. At first, he was going to fight Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor gets laid out by Dustin Poirier. No longer is he fighting Conor McGregor. Next, he was going to fight Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was just posting about it like it was no tomorrow on social media. But now he's not even fighting Ryan Garcia. Next, you hear Bob Arum screaming to the world that he's going to get Manny Pacquiao against Terrence Crawford. And Terrence Crawford is all about it on Twitter and talking about Manny Pacquiao. And now that fight's not happening. Now what I'm hearing is that Errol Spence Jr. is going to fight Manny Pacquiao. And I think that is, if Pacquiao is going to fight either Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr., I think Manny Pacquiao's best chances are with Errol Spence Jr. I think Pacquiao does a lot better with a fighter that fights more composed. When there's composure and there's not too much wildness in the style of the fighter that Manny Pacquiao is fighting, I feel like because a lot of their punches aren't these wild card moves, Pacquiao is more able to calculate how you will move, and is because Pacquiao is a wild fighter, it works in his favor. And I just think that Errol Spence Jr., he's more for the straight punches. He's more for the straight uppercuts or the hooks. He's not like Errol Spence Jr., who's looping for the punches, and he's very patient. Errol Spence is very patient. Terrence Crawford, if he starts losing, he becomes very impatient and starts taking chances, and therefore comes the looping punches, and therefore comes the charging forward at a wild pace. And I just think Manny Pacquiao would do much better against Errol Spence. So I'd love to see Manny Pacquiao fight one, defeat one of them, that being Errol Spence Jr. Not saying that that's going to happen, but how crazy would it be if Manny Pacquiao did defeat him and then he goes on to fight the next? And so now you got an old veteran legend in Manny Pacquiao who defeats one of the top welterweights and then is going against the last top welterweight in the division, and you have both of them going at it. That would I believe revitalize the welterweight division in boxing. So I'd love to see that. I really would. I think Errol Spence Jr. is a good next call for Manny Pacquiao, but we shall see. We'll see what he's gonna get himself into. I know for the longest time that I didn't even go over the full list. I knew that he was going to fight Danny Garcia. I knew that he was going to fight Mikey Garcia. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of Garcias in boxing right now. There's Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Ryan Garcia. The only Garcia that's missing is me. No, but that's okay. I'm too fat now, guys. Um, but yeah, yo, Haney Linares, that's coming up soon. That's May 29th, guys. May 29th. We're about shit. We're looking. Oh, that's 5 weeks from now. Damn. Okay, 5 weeks away. But that fight is going to be insane because. You know what? Time out. We're going to stop talking about that because we talked about that last week. What I really want to talk about is the UFC belt. Guys, if I haven't felt more threatened, I've never felt so threatened for the sport of boxing until I saw what the UFC posted about their belts yesterday. If you have the chance, go on Instagram right now. Go to the UFC, and God, they might not even have it anymore. But if you go into their story and you see what they do to the belts after a champion defends their belts, it's going to fucking scare you if you're a boxing fan. Because there's nothing like this in any of the organizations that boxing partakes in. Okay, first of all, here, I'm going to pull this shit up for you guys. Okay. Timeout. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white diamonds, I believe. Yes, there's 8 white diamonds around the UFC belts. Right? And each time a fighter defends their UFC title, the UFC adds a red diamond in place of the white diamond. And in between each diamond placed on this octagon-like shape on their belts, they write the date that they defended the belt. And so if you look at Valentina Shevchenko's belt, you'll see at the very top, June 9th, 2019, Chicago. Red diamonds on each side. And then on the next side, you'll see August 10th, 2019. I don't know. It's somewhere in Uruguay. And then another one in Houston and another one in Las Vegas. And then they have and apparently they have a partnership with like some jewelry store. But then you look at Rose Namajunas, her strawweight belt. And she's just getting her first belt, right? Her first red diamond because she just got the belt back. By the way, Rose is the first woman in UFC history to get her championship belt back. But the first diamond is obviously because she won it yesterday, Jacksonville, Florida, April 24th, 2021. And the next time she defends it, another red diamond. And the next time she defends it, another red diamond. I want to know what happens once you get all red diamonds. I want to know. And that's what makes the UFC belt exciting. I used to think it was ugly as shit until I saw this. This is badass. And one of the belts in boxing needs to step the fuck up because this is so cool. And here, we'll look at the next one. Shoot, I keep skipping the part where they mentioned the jewelry company. Kamaru Usman, welterweight. He has 4 diamonds. Oh, no. He has 5 diamonds. 5 red diamonds. So, I don't know, guys. The WBC, the IBF, the WBA, the WBO. One of you guys have to step up, man. I mean, the UFC's official UFC licensed jeweler is Bixler's. God damn, that is so cool. I want a belt now. That is so cool. And I don't even know how to throw a kick. Speaking of kicks. Y'all are not going to act like there isn't a fucking leg curse in the UFC. Chris Weidman ruined his leg when he kicked, what's his name, Uriah Hall. Okay, so let's go over this. We're going to go over this, and we're going to go over it really quick, and I'm going to try my best. Let's see if I can explain it in under 30 seconds. So, If we go back in time, Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman, the very first fight. Everyone knows what happened that time. Chris Weidman landed a punch. Anderson Silva showboated and acted like he got stumbled by the punch. And then Chris Weidman followed up and actually knocked Anderson Silva, took him down, pounded his face a couple of times. The fight was over. Rematch, fight number 2 between Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva. In the rematch, Anderson Silva goes in for a leg kick. His leg snaps in half. Fight is over. Chris Weidman wins, becomes champion, gets dethroned by Luke Rockhold later on. But yesterday, Chris Weidman went against Uriah Hall, who he faced 11 years earlier and defeated. Now, 11 years later, they went at it again, and guess what happened to Chris Weidman? Uriah Hall didn't even throw a punch or a kick. And the first thing that was landed was a kick by Chris Weidman. And why is this so hard to explain? Chris Weidman threw a fucking kick, and he split it in half, and it was disgusting, and it was ugly, and it was gross. That's all I have to say. No professionalism behind that. It was nasty. It was gross. It terrifies me. Every time I watch it, and I've watched it more than 10 times, it makes my heart shriek in its spot, in its place, and I want to close my eyes, but I keep watching. And if you look at the video and if you look at the replay, you'll see that Chris Weidman doesn't even notice that his leg snapped in half until he brings it back and he's going to step on it, and then he falls back. And then as he's falling back, he looks at his leg and he's like, oh, and then he falls down, and he just like, he kind of like looks out for a little bit to see if Uriah Hall's going to come and like stomp his face in. But Uriah Hall saw what had happened, so he didn't even bother, and the fight was over. And it was insane. That was not under 60 seconds, but I tried. Basically, Chris Weidman fucked up his leg. Yeah, I mean, I can't see myself. I can't see. I don't understand how being in the UFC, you have the balls to throw a kick like that after watching someone snap their leg and not be afraid every single time you throw a kick. Because I'd be terrified. Yeah. I saw this video on TikTok. There's this doctor that explains what happened to Chris Weidman that made his leg snap. And basically, there's 2 bones in your leg. One's thicker, one's a little bit thinner. But basically, he said, in order to fix those 2 bones that had snapped, the doctor is going to have to go from the very top of the bone and stick a fucking rod down all through his bone, and then that rod is going to have to go down, and then they're going to have to fit the other piece of his bone in that rod, and the bone is going to have to grow around that rod, and they'll leave the rod in there with 2 screws. And the only way they'll take out the 2 screws if the screws are hurting him for whatever reason. So basically, he'll have a rod in his bone and 2 screws for the rest of his life. And so that's how they fix that. Can you imagine putting a rod down in your bone all the way through? I don't know. That just sounds painful. I don't know. I guess I'd go through it, but I'd also consider chopping my leg off. Holy cow. I was about to end the podcast, but we didn't even talk about this. Daniel Cormier confronted Jake Paul at UFC 261, and that shit was fucking crazy. Because at first, we all knew that it happened, and I saw the video of it happening from far away. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, Jake Paul must have like been acting like such a bitch. Like his lips were probably trembling, and he probably looked scared. But no, I saw the video of a close-up, and Jake Paul looked like he didn't give a fuck that Daniel Cormier was in front of him. He looks so confident in himself that he could defeat Daniel Cormier in a boxing fight. Let's be clear. He can only defeat Daniel Cormier in a boxing fight. Or even at least have a chance in a boxing fight. If it was in an MMA fight, Jake Paul's done for. But to be standing in front of what used to be a UFC heavyweight champion and not be trembling in your boots, and you're a UFC fighter with 3 legit boxing fights under your belt, and not be acting scared and just, oh my god, guys, I love the fucking Paul brothers. They're so funny. I don't care what anyone's saying about them. I know they were a bunch of immature kids when they were younger, but honestly, who wasn't, and who honestly still isn't an immature kid? Let's be honest, dude. These guys do it for the clout, and they do it for the fucking, and really what clout equals is money. And Jake Paul is doing what a lot of boxers wish they could do, and that is just be the, I mean, this is, and to be honest, this is the Floyd Mayweather blueprint. He's acting the villain, and people hate him. A lot of people, the people that hate him, come to watch him lose, but they're still paying money. The people that come to watch him win and support, they're still paying money. So whether you hate him or love him, that's what sells tickets, and that's how he's making money. So goddamn, keep going, Jake Paul. Let's see how long this lasts. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm looking at it. It feels like Dogecoin, really. Like you're just betting on Jake winning. It just feels like a Dogecoin to me in the world of fighting. But I'm for it, y'all. I'm for it. That shit's exciting. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for you today. Until next week, I am thinking of bringing this this podcast just only to YouTube. I really don't see the point of, I mean, I guess I do see the point of uploading it to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but I really just like the idea of maybe just even turning this into just a YouTube channel. I mean, I get podcasting, but I don't think my format really works for podcasting as of right now because it's not very conversational. It's more just opinions. You guys hear me talk shit, and that's really it. And I don't really think that's a podcast, but we'll see, guys. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Can't wait to talk to you guys next week.